Miranda was raised in Springfield, a small town located in central Illinois. Her parents were farmers who cultivated a modest cornfield. Although life in the countryside was straightforward, it was filled with love and warmth. As the youngest of three sisters, Miranda was particularly committed to her studies and assisting with farm duties. At 18, she made the pivotal choice to follow her passion for helping others and enrolled in nursing school at the University of Illinois. Leaving her family and rural life behind was not easy, but Miranda was resolute in her desire to chase her dreams in the bustling city. Throughout her university years, Miranda distinguished herself through her dedication and compassion for her patients. It was during this time that she met David at a college party. David, a business administration major, was a popular and accomplished student, always surrounded by friends and admired for his charm. Miranda was drawn to his charisma and warmth, and their relationship blossomed quickly. They spent evenings in Chicago, where the city lights shimmered on Lake Michigan, sitting together and taking in the skyline under the stars. During these moments, David would often share his hopes and fears with Miranda. One evening, as the gentle waves lapped at the shore, David's tone shifted, hinting at something significant he needed to discuss. "Miranda," he began, his voice barely audible amidst the soothing sounds of the lake. "There's something important I need to share with you." Miranda turned to him, noticing the seriousness in his gray sunway blue eyes. "Of course, David, I'm here for you," she reassured him, gripping his hand tightly. David inhaled deeply, summoning the courage to voice his innermost thoughts. I don't want to be a father. I don't believe I'm suited for it. The weight of raising a child feels overwhelming. I don't want to let you down, but it wouldn't be fair to you if I didn't share this with you now." His revelation took Miranda by surprise. She had always envisioned a future with children, but she had never truly contemplated the topic in depth. The idea seemed so far off, almost irrelevant to their current lives. For a brief moment, Miranda found herself caught between her love for David and the idea of a family she had never truly contemplated. "Miranda, are you all right?" David's voice pulled her back to reality. She met his gaze, seeing both concern and a flicker of fear in his eyes. He was afraid of losing her and anxious about the implications of his confession for their future. Squeezing his hand gently, she aimed to provide him with some reassurance. "David," she began, choosing her words with care, I'm not sure if I want to become a mother. I've always envisioned having children, but I haven't really thought it through. If you're not ready to be a father, I can understand that, and I think I can accept that we won't have kids." David looked at her, caught off guard by her response, but clearly relieved. They embraced tightly, promising each other that the decision they had made that night wouldn't alter the love they shared. For many years, that promise held firm, until the unexpected news of Miranda's pregnancy turned their world upside down. After graduation, David secured a position at a large corporate firm, while Miranda began her nursing career at Chicago General Hospital. They tied the knot and settled into a charming apartment in the heart of the city. The peaceful life of David and Miranda took a dramatic turn on a gloomy autumn afternoon in Chicago. David, known for his punctuality and commitment as a sales manager, was driving home from work on a Friday, eagerly anticipating the weekend he would spend with Miranda. As he listened to his favorite Beatles song, "Here Comes the Sun," the irony of the dreary weather and slick roads was not lost on him. Without warning, a black car sped into his lane, crashing into David's vehicle and sending it spinning. The deafening noise of the collision, crumpling metal and breaking glass, resonated in his mind as his seatbelt held him in place, sparing him from a more severe fate. Amidst the chaos of flashing red and blue lights dancing in the rain, David was pulled from the wreckage and rushed to the hospital. What began as an ordinary day quickly transformed into a nightmare that would forever alter his life. In the subsequent days, doctors delivered the diagnosis David had dreaded: a complex fracture in his femur that would severely limit the mobility of his right leg. He would have to wear an immobilizing boot, rely on crutches, and endure months, if not years, of physical therapy to regain the ability to walk unaided. The hardest blow, however, was the news that his role as a sales manager, one he cherished deeply, was now untenable. Traveling, meeting clients, and managing the demanding pace of office life were no longer possible. Miranda, ever David's steadfast support, stepped up as the primary provider. She took on additional hours at the hospital, committing herself to long and exhausting shifts, while David grappled with accepting his new reality, which now depended on government assistance. Their home, once filled with laughter and dreams for the future, began to feel like a cage of bitterness and frustration for him. The strain on their relationship became increasingly evident, marked by uncomfortable silences and unspoken words. The vibrant man David had once been, brimming with dreams, now resisted any discussions Miranda initiated about having children. To him, the prospect of fatherhood felt even more remote in his current state of dependency. The weight of his limitations erected a barrier between them, becoming an ever-growing obstacle in their relationship. One spring morning, sunlight poured through the curtains of their home, illuminating a simple yet life-changing object: a positive pregnancy test. With trembling hands and a racing heart, Miranda gazed at the 2 pink lines that confirmed her suspicions, an experience that felt both surreal and overwhelming. Despite their careful precautions, life had taken an unexpected turn, revealing that she was pregnant. A swirl of emotions engulfed her. Fear and apprehension mingled with an unexpected spark of hope and a hint of joy. This revelation came at a particularly fragile moment in their relationship. The connection between Miranda and David had frayed, their once vibrant conversations reduced to mere whispers. David, grappling with the bitterness of his situation, had grown increasingly distant. Yet, as tumultuous as the news was, Miranda felt a flicker of excitement at the thought of the tiny life developing within her. She found herself daydreaming about motherhood, imagining the softness of a baby's touch, the sound of their laughter, and the joy of witnessing their first steps. However, alongside this excitement lay a deep-seated fear of David's reaction. The thought of sharing her pregnancy news was daunting, especially given his growing coldness and apathy. As the sun cast a warm golden glow across the room, and the pregnancy test rested in her hand, Miranda closed her eyes, allowing herself to embrace the full spectrum of emotions: fear, hope, anxiety, and joy. She was pregnant, and despite the complexities ahead, she was determined to protect and cherish the little being growing inside her. On a beautiful sunny afternoon, the vibrancy of Miranda and David's garden was more striking than ever. Colorful blooms adorned the landscape, and a gentle breeze carried the fresh scent of spring. They sat on the porch, sheltered by a flowering vine, enjoying their afternoon coffee from cherished porcelain cups. The rich aroma of coffee blended with the delicate floral notes, creating a warm and serene atmosphere. As they conversed about their dreams and future together, Miranda, nervously wrapping her fingers around her coffee cup, decided it was time to address a topic they had both been avoiding. With a voice filled with care and hesitation, she broached the subject of having children, her shy smile revealing her uncertainty. David, who had been relaxed until that moment, basking in the sunlight filtering through the leaves, suddenly tensed. His expression shifted to one of seriousness, almost stern. He set his coffee cup down on the table and locked his gaze onto Miranda, his eyes reflecting a resolute determination. Miranda, We've talked about this before. You know I've always been clear about not wanting to be a father. The responsibility feels overwhelming, and I just don't think I'm ready for it. Miranda, striving to maintain her composure, despite being visibly shaken, bit her lower lip. She looked at David, her eyes filled with love and determination, yet tinged with sadness. David, I understand your concerns, she replied softly, her voice laced with emotion. But have you ever considered that we could face these challenges together? That we could build a family? I love you, and I truly believe we would make great parents. However, David, feeling increasingly trapped and frustrated, swiftly retorted, Miranda, we've had this conversation before, and my stance hasn't changed. I don't want to be a father, and that's that. The tension of the discussion unfolded amidst the backdrop of chirping birds and the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. Yet beneath this seemingly calm exterior, a storm of unexpressed emotions and unrealized dreams brewed, threatening the fragile balance of their relationship as they confronted the reality of her pregnancy. Miranda knew that David would be furious upon learning the truth. On a particularly quiet night, with the soft crackling of the fireplace echoing throughout the living room, Miranda resolved to bring up the topic of children with David once more. She was acutely aware that revealing her pregnancy was an inevitability, yet she clung to a sliver of hope that David might reconsider his position. Huddled on opposite ends of the couch after a tense, silent dinner, she summoned the courage to initiate the conversation. Her voice, initially wavering, gained strength as she continued. David, have you thought about how our relationship might benefit from a change? That the arrival of a child could bring us closer and infuse our lives with new purpose? David, visibly impatient and agitated at the mere mention of the topic, abruptly interrupted Miranda. His tone was sharper than usual. Miranda, we've had this conversation too many times. I don't want kids, and you know that all too well. And let's be honest, he continued, a hint of disdain creeping into his voice. You're not getting any younger. It's time to let go of those dreams. Your window has closed. You should be focusing on taking care of yourself and looking after me. You walk around with unkempt hair, never putting in any effort, and the house is always in disarray. The argument escalated rapidly, with David raising his voice and placing the blame for all their problems squarely on Miranda's shoulders. Yet, she stood firm, countering that he had become complacent, demanding things without lifting a finger to help. In a moment of anger, he hurled their wedding vow, in sickness and in health, back at her, accusing her of abandoning him during his vulnerable time. He insisted that instead of dreaming about children, she should prioritize his care. What had started as a calm evening spiraled into a storm of accusations and unresolved grievances, the atmosphere thick with tension and harsh words. In the following days, a heavy sense of unease enveloped Miranda. A profound sadness settled in her heart, stemming not only from the pregnancy news she hadn't yet shared with David, but also from a growing sense of doubt that gnawed at her thoughts. Subtle changes in David's demeanor and behavior planted seeds of suspicion in her mind, signs she could no longer ignore. Miranda began to notice a troubling pattern in the calls David received. Some came in during the late hours of the night, while others arrived at dawn, with David always adopting a careful and distant tone, stepping out of earshot whenever he answered. Even in the stillness of the night, when the only sound was the soft chirping of crickets, she would catch glimpses of the glow from David's cell phone as he typed messages he never shared with her. However, it was a hidden package she stumbled upon in a secluded corner of David's closet that pushed her suspicions into painful clarity. Inside, she found delicate lingerie, still tagged and clearly not something she had ever seen before. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut, mixing sadness and anger and casting an even darker shadow over their already strained marriage. As these thoughts accumulated day after day, they fed the melancholy that settled deep within Miranda. Her once vibrant and determined demeanor was now replaced by constant worry and exhaustion. The light that once sparkled in her eyes had dimmed, giving way to a silent, resigned sadness. With David's birthday approaching, Miranda grappled with a whirlwind of emotions: distrust, resentment, and fear. But she resolved to keep the tradition of celebrating his special day. Despite her heavy heart, she made her way to a local bakery she had always cherished, known for its delightful ambiance and delectable cakes. The sweet aroma of vanilla and chocolate enveloped her as she entered, yet the comforting scent couldn't erase the sorrow mirrored in her eyes. Lucas, a salesman with warm eyes and a welcoming smile, immediately sensed the sadness that lingered around Miranda. Approaching her with genuine concern, he asked, "Can I help you pick out the perfect cake?" Miranda hesitated for a moment, mustering a small smile as she replied, "Yes, please. It's for my husband's birthday." As they browsed through an array of tempting cakes, Lucas could feel the weight of her hidden sorrow. His empathetic nature urged him to step beyond his role as a salesman. "I might be wrong," he said gently, "but it seems like you can use a bit of joy today." He paused, studying her with kindness, before adding, "How about this chocolate cake with ganache filling? It has a flavor that brings a smile to anyone's face, and you deserve to smile too." While Miranda kept her composure, the understanding and kindness Lucas offered provided a soothing relief to her troubled spirit. His gentle remarks, including a light-hearted quip about the magic of chocolate, drew a shy smile from her, a rare moment of genuine happiness that felt refreshing after such a long time. One exhausting afternoon, following a particularly challenging shift at the hospital, Miranda felt an urgent need to confront her fears and insecurities. The burden of uncertainty weighed heavily on her, and the silence in her mind grew increasingly overwhelming. Heart racing and hands trembling like leaves in a breeze, she picked up her phone and dialed David's number. Familiar, yet daunting. "David," she began, carefully controlling her tone to mask the chaos of emotions swirling within. "My shift at the hospital is running late due to an emergency. I'll need to stay longer, so don't wait up for me." David's response came with a familiar indifference that Miranda had grown accustomed to. "All right, Miranda, take care. See you tomorrow." After ending the call, an oppressive silence enveloped her. She decided to drive to a secluded spot at the end of their street where she could keep an eye on their house without being seen. As night descended, the street transformed into a tapestry of shadows. Then her heart sank when she witnessed something that made her breath catch. David, the man who had been struggling to move since the accident, was stepping out of the house. And astonishingly, he was walking, without crutches, without a limp, and without the heavy boot that had confined him for so long. Pausing on the sidewalk, he signaled to a rideshare vehicle that approached. With one last glance back at their home, David climbed into the car, which quickly drove away, leaving Miranda grappling with her crushing suspicions and a profound emptiness in her heart. In that moment, her heart raced wildly, echoing her deepest fears. Resolute, she started her car's engine and began to trail David's vehicle, maintaining a safe distance. The air inside felt thick and suffocating, with each moment stretching out like an eternity as she pursued him down the darkened streets. The rideshare vehicle, carrying David, came to a halt in front of a chic restaurant in Lincoln Park, a place adorned with soft lights and the distant sounds of laughter and conversation. Miranda recognized it instantly, a venue where they had celebrated anniversaries in the past. The realization only deepened her anguish. She watched as David exited the car with a familiar grace, standing tall and assured. But what truly made her stomach twist was the sight of a woman stepping out from the shadows to greet him. A striking blonde, elegantly dressed, her hair shimmering under the restaurant lights. The sight of this beautiful stranger meeting David filled Miranda with a sense of dread. Their greeting was far from casual. A passionate kiss exchanged between them conveyed an intimacy that made Miranda feel like an unwelcome observer. The moment struck her like a punch to the gut, leaving her feeling as though the ground beneath her was crumbling. There she sat, trapped in her car, watching her life unravel in real time. Rage surged through Miranda, boiling in her veins like molten lava. She waited in the stillness of the night until the couple exited the restaurant, then discreetly trailed them at a safe distance until they reached home. As they pulled up, Miranda stepped out of her car, her face flushed with anger and disgust. Her voice sliced through the quiet night air, dripping with bitter sarcasm. "Happy birthday, David." David turned to her. Surprise and a hint of anxiety etched across his face. "Miranda, I thought you were working an extra shift at the hospital?" Miranda's voice escalated, her words sharp and accusatory. "David, how could you betray my trust like this and still pretend to be unwell?" she shouted, her finger pointing at him in accusation. A bitter smile crept onto David's lips as he responded, "The house is mine, Miranda. If you don't like it, you can leave." "I'm not going anywhere." Desperation and sorrow engulfed Miranda, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I've paid every installment on this house while you lied about your condition. Doesn't that mean anything?" she pleaded, her breath quickening. David remained unfazed, merely shaking his head. "We got married under a partial property regime, and I bought the house before we tied the knot. It's mine. Plain and simple." The entire scene unfolded like a tempest of conflicting emotions, with David's lover serving as the calm at its core, a silent observer amidst the chaos surrounding her. Though present, she seemed to linger in the background, her wide eyes fixated on the explosive argument happening before her. The shock etched on her face mirrored the emotional turmoil that was rapidly escalating. Then, as if a bolt of lightning had pierced through the darkness, she broke her silence, her voice laced with venom as she declared, "You lied to me too, David." Although her tone wavered, it carried a weight of bitter accusation, an awakening to the painful truth. Clenching her fists in frustration, she continued, "You claim to be a renowned surgeon, and I—" She paused, swallowing hard as the realization settled in. "I can't believe I was so naive." Her final words hung heavily in the air, a barely audible confession aimed more at herself than anyone else in the room. It was the sound of her illusion shattering, a quiet acknowledgement that she too had fallen prey to David's manipulative web. Overwhelmed by raw emotions, she erupted into tears, her sobs echoing in the now silent room. The door clicked shut behind her, with a soft thud, leaving Miranda and David alone, the atmosphere thick with tension and bitterness. Their eyes met across the expanse that now lay between them, filled with unspoken words, unveiled truths, and fractured trust. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, saturated with sorrow and resentment that clung to them like a shroud. Miranda felt the ground shift beneath her, a wave of dizziness washing over her, as she struggled to grasp the reality of what had just transpired. Disoriented, she felt as if she were lost in a storm, her bearings gone. Yet, amid the emotional turmoil, a newfound determination began to take root within her. She understood that she could no longer remain in that house, which now felt alien and unwelcoming. However, unlike David, Miranda had more than just herself to think about. She looked down and placed her hand over her belly, a tangible reminder of the secret she had yet to reveal. "I have to leave, David," she stated, her voice steady despite the lump that formed in her throat. "It's not just for me, it's for us." With her hands still cradling her belly, Miranda turned and walked out of the house, leaving behind the life she once knew, but carrying with her a quiet vow to fight, not only for herself, but for the little life growing inside her. The following morning, Miranda awoke with a heavy heart, her emotions in turmoil. Her once stable and predictable life felt like it had shattered overnight. In search of comfort and the warmth of a friendly face, she decided to visit the quaint cake shop where she had first met Lucas, the kind salesperson who had shown her so much empathy. The shop's door chimed softly as Miranda entered, and the sound brought a genuine smile to Lucas's face. He welcomed her with open arms, his eyes filled with concern as he took in her weary expression. "Miranda, it's so nice to see you. How was your husband's birthday celebration?" he inquired, his voice warm yet laced with concern. A heavy sigh escaped Miranda's lips, laden with the weight of her troubles. "Lucas, it was a disaster," she admitted, her voice quaking. "I discovered that David was cheating on me, and to make things worse, he kicked me out of our home. I'm utterly heartbroken." Lucas's face shifted as he processed her words, a blend of disbelief and compassion washing over him. "Miranda, I can't believe what I'm hearing," he replied. "Interestingly, I'm facing something similar. I recently found out that my wife, Vanessa, has been unfaithful. I stumbled upon a secret Instagram account filled with her photos with another man. Intrigued, yet anxious, Miranda asked to see the images. Lucas hesitated briefly before pulling out his phone and showing her the photos. As Miranda gazed at the screen, her complexion drained of color. The woman in the photo was undoubtedly Vanessa, but it was the man beside her who caused her heart to race. It was David, her husband, his arm casually draped around Vanessa's waist. Miranda struggled to breathe, shock washing over her like an icy wave. "Lucas, this can't be real. The man in this photo is David, my husband," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "And this is the woman I saw him with last night." Stunned by the shocking revelation, Miranda and Lucas experienced an instant connection, a sense of solidarity forged by their shared experiences of betrayal and deception. They had found themselves intertwined in a situation they had never anticipated. With a newfound resolve, Miranda urged Lucas to share the damning photo, considering it a crucial piece of evidence for the impending legal battle. Taking the initiative, Miranda declared, "Lucas, we have to take action. We need to confront David and make sure he faces the consequences of his actions." Lucas nodded in agreement. "Absolutely, Miranda. You're right. We need to team up on this." With a strategy in place, they engaged a divorce attorney who specialized in such matters, diligently gathering every piece of evidence they could find to bolster their case. The Instagram photo of Vanessa and David became the focal point of their evidence collection, but they didn't stop there. They meticulously combed through messages, emails, and financial records, compiling a substantial dossier of evidence showcasing David's deceit and infidelity. Additionally, Miranda, recalling David's dismissive attitude towards her contributions to the mortgage, managed to collect all receipts and documents that evidenced her consistent mortgage payments, solidifying her claim to an ownership stake in the house. During this time, Miranda and Lucas transitioned from being mere acquaintances to allies, drawing strength from their shared pain in their quest for justice. United by their common plight, they put in tireless effort to ensure that the truth emerged and that David would be held accountable for his actions. As the legal proceedings unfolded, often slow and exasperating, Miranda and Lucas found solace in each other's company. Days turned into weeks, and they spent countless hours together, exchanging laughter, comfortable silences, and stories from their previous lives. Amidst the chaos, a deep and genuine friendship blossomed, unfolding unexpectedly like a late-blooming flower, its beauty enhanced by its sudden emergence. There were afternoons when Miranda shared tales of her nursing school experiences, recalling late-night study sessions, and the moment she saved her first patient's life. In return, Lucas recounted his childhood adventures in a small town, his aspirations of becoming a professional musician, and how his journey led him to sell cakes in the bustling city. They delved into each other's histories, sharing the joys and heartaches that had shaped their identities. Through these intimate conversations, they not only gained deeper insights into one another, but also began the process of rebuilding their own lives. Despite the lingering pain of betrayal, they discovered a sense of understanding and mutual acceptance that served as a balm for their wounds. Each day, their bond strengthened, becoming a vital source of support as they navigated the challenges that lay ahead. They became steadfast allies, facing the uncertainties and fears of the future together. This friendship, born from shared struggles, promised to be lasting, resilient, and unshakable. In the grand courtroom, beneath the stern gaze of the judge, the truth emerged at last. David's deceitful narratives were laid bare, meticulously examined under the unwavering eye of justice. A heavy silence blanketed the room when the verdict was delivered, its weight palpable. David was confronted with the stark reality of his actions. With a look of determination, the judge declared that the house, once envisioned as a haven filled with hope, but now marred by betrayal, rightfully belonged to Miranda. It was her efforts that had kept a roof over their heads while David exploited her generosity. Her ruling echoed through the courtroom. Justice had finally been served. Trapped in the consequences of his own deceit, David found himself with nothing. The foundation he had built on lies and falsehoods crumbled, leaving him to face the aftermath of his choices alone. David now found himself isolated, rejected, and exposed, a true reflection of the pain and chaos he had inflicted on others. Vanessa, who had also been ensnared in David's deceitful web, experienced her own form of betrayal. Disturbed and hurt by his manipulative tactics, she made the difficult choice to distance herself from him and from the toxic environment he had created with Miranda. With newfound resolve, she sought to rebuild her life, yearning for a future untainted by dishonesty and heartache. Meanwhile, David stood at a crossroads, feeling helpless and defeated. The gravity of his decisions weighed heavily on him as he watched Miranda, radiant and strong in her advanced pregnancy. The sight of her baby bump, a joyous symbol of new life, stirred within him an unexpected longing for fatherhood. With a hint of insincerity underlying his words, he resolved to approach her, claiming that he had experienced a change of heart and asking for a second chance to make things right. "Miranda," David implored, his eyes filled with desperation and his voice quivering. "Seeing you, seeing the baby, it changed something in me. I want to be a father. Please give me a chance to start over and fix things." Yet beneath his plea lay no genuine desire to embrace fatherhood or to mend his ways. David was primarily motivated by a desire to salvage his marriage and reclaim what he had lost in the fallout. But Miranda, having endured enough pain and deception, was not about to fall prey to his manipulative charms again. With a newfound wisdom, she guarded herself against his attempts. "David," she replied, her voice steady and resolute, "you've already had your opportunity. I'm not going back to you. If you wish to have any kind of relationship with our child, the one you've repeatedly rejected, you'll have to handle it through the courts. I don't trust you, and I refuse to let your irresponsibility affect our child." Amidst the turmoil, Miranda and Lucas found themselves drawn together by a series of painful circumstances. In each other, they discovered a haven of safety and sincerity. The bond they forged, initially born from adversity, and strengthened by their shared experiences, began to evolve into something deeper and more meaningful. Over time, their innocent friendship blossomed into a profound and resonant love, transforming them from mere friends into a couple united in affection. Amid the challenges brought on by the imminent arrival of Miranda's baby and the emotional aftermath of their divorces, she and Lucas stood unwaveringly together. They provided each other with unwavering support, tackling every new obstacle with resilience and a genuine care for one another. Their shared journey became a testament to the strength of the human spirit, demonstrating that even in the face of betrayal and hardship, love and friendship can emerge. These connections, once established, have the potential to grow, thrive, and pave the way for new beginnings, a life filled with harmony and joy together. As they navigated their way toward a brighter future and a solid relationship, they learned that the foundation of happiness lies in honesty, mutual support, and understanding. Ultimately, Miranda and Lucas became stronger, not only as individuals, but as a couple, bonded by their shared experiences. They discovered that true connection flourishes from sincerity and respect for one another. What would you do if you were in Miranda's situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'm sure this story resonates with you as much as it does with me. Until our next video.